Oh, excellent. It's been a minute since I've seen you.
Yeah, about 4 months, 5 months. Oh, wow, maybe 6 months now.
Almost, since we were in Antarctica, right?
Fact.
Right. Well, welcome. Make sure you tell everybody a little bit about why you are running and where you're from.
Well, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, or at least that's where I live these days. I'm running mostly because I want to expand the community of .NET. I've worked with a number of startups as well as my work with diversity and inclusion, and I think there's some holes in where .NET reaches to, and I really think we could, as a foundation, help reach out to, especially startups. I've worked with some startup Saturdays, and Microsoft is almost never picked as a technology there. And I want to understand why and maybe help some of the projects that would lend our voice outside of the traditional Microsoft, customers, the .NET customers.
Oh, yes. For those of you who don't know, Shawn has been a friend of mine for a while, but not everybody knows what your contributions are. Do you want to tell them what those are?
Sure. I've been working with .NET since the beta, so I think back in 2000, and I've written a number of books, been teaching .NET for forever, and I've also open sourced quite a lot of code out on GitHub for a variety of things, back from some Silverlight libraries and some Windows Phone libraries to some .NET Core projects for RSS and for Metalog API, which is something that my own blog and my the Atlanta Code Camp's website both use, which are also both open sourced. When open source came to being, it became really important to me that I code in the view of the community, because I think code that is exposed to the air of review is improved, and so that's part of sort of my passion around open source, is not just sharing code and so that people can have better code by people looking at it, but also trying to do as much out in the open of people being able to see what I think good code looks like, or at least not allowing me to take shortcuts because I know someone might actually read my code.
That's true. Didn't you also come out with a film?
Well, this fall, I'll be coming out with a film on diversity and inclusion in software development. It's a feature-length documentary, and it should be on a number of platforms, Amazon, Apple TV, etc. This fall. We'll have announcements about when that comes out. But we actually did a preview at a conference when we went to Antarctica, and I'm really excited about it. It's been 4 long years of my life talking to people about software development in general.
So what experience do you think that lends itself specifically to be on the board?
That's a good question. I've been thinking a lot about that. I don't have a lot of experience working with large groups, so at first blush, it might not seem like I'm the natural fit for the board. But because I've been working in the .NET community so long, and by that I mean working with customers, teaching people over the years, I think I want to bring to the board my experience seeing something outside of just the Fortune 500 companies. I think it becomes very easy for us to get drawn into what is important to big enterprises, which is where I think .NET has a lot of traction, and try to expand that. In addition, I talk to a lot of developers and a lot of developers that are just starting through my teaching, whether that's the Pluralsight courses I do or the training I do through Wilderminds. There's some real pain points that they see in trying to adopt and understand the libraries, and being able to support open source projects that can make that better. I think is a huge benefit. And I really want to encourage us to think outside of North America and traditional, white guys in cargo pants as the only ones that can write open source software. And really encourage, not just the next generation, but this generation that maybe doesn't fit into what we think is our normative view of what developers look like. That's crucially important to me, and what really drew me to serve on the board.
Yes. What is the one thing that you think the .NET Foundation can grow and improve with if you had to pick one?
I'm hoping that the .NET Foundation can look at more than just functionality. I want the projects that are supported by the .NET Foundation to be exemplars to the kind of code that will help the community on the whole. That's not just the enterprise developers in New York City, but the brand new developers in the emerging world. When I did a trip around the world and met developers from a number of continents, and it's interesting how different and how isolated some people feel, because they're in the different time zones, and because they're from different backgrounds, and money certainly is a part of that issue. And so be able to support projects that aim at expanding that to looking at, whether it's more projects around internationalization, or helping with projects that are trying to come from more diverse groups and backgrounds and countries and time zones and hemispheres even. It just feels to me a lot like when we think about .NET developers, we're stuck in Europe, North America, Northern Hemisphere, Western Hemisphere. And I really hope we could change that.
Absolutely agree with you there. So what is the favorite project that you have built in .NET over the years?
That's a good question. My favorite project. It's actually a project that's dead now.
Could you build it now? Could you build it in the current version of .NET?
I certainly could. No, I built a business based on helping people find movies and TVs called How to Watch. And I built it in .NET, and it was really a lot of fun. Built it in an early version of Core and got it out there. And the programming, as with most of these cases, is never the hard part. Yeah. The hard part is actually, it really came down to when our app got denied by Apple and got pulled.
Yeah, it's been there.
It was over. So I'm passionate about people trying to start and come up with new ideas, whether they're brilliant, tiny ideas, or whether some people are trying to change the world with it. One of the things that I'm really happy to have contributed to was Humanitarian Toolbox, because I feel like the kind of work they're doing is really important, and because it's .NET, I feel like I could really contribute when I was more active with the project.
Absolutely. I'm going to ask you a fun question before we go.
Sure.
If you had a choice between two superpowers, being invisible or flying, which would you choose?
Well, this is an interesting question. I've been thinking a lot about it. I'm going to not use one of those two superpowers, because I was asked recently what superpower I would like if I could choose, and I would choose the USSR during the Cold War. That's my favorite superpower. Right. I'm not sure that's what you meant.
Not what I meant. If you can't make the decision, I could certainly give you one of them. If I could just bestow one on you, I would say I would love it for you to be able to fly, so you could go to more places, to more coders, and teach them what you know.
That's lovely. Having to get into a plane ever again would be a treat.
Now, how can people find you on Twitter?
It's just my name, Shawn Wildermuth. It's the same name on Twitter, on GitHub, everywhere except for Facebook products, where I'm not at. So you can't find me anywhere there.
Thank you so much for interviewing with us, and good luck.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with Shawn. Oops. Mitchel.